Well, hello, welcome to the video. Hope you can see me okay. I look a little bit overexposed, shall we say. I don't mean my clothing, I mean the light. I've got my big light on so you can see what we're doing. So this is a 2004 Suzuki Carry, DA63T model code. It's four-wheel drive and it's got a dribbling differential. It's dribbling from the seal here. So today's job is to fix that. I'm going to start by draining the oil. Probably don't need to drain the differential completely, but just enough so that we don't have dribbling out of here when I take that flange off. 19mm for that one. And I have taken these off before. So in terms of what's caused the leak, well, I suspect, aside from where, it's a combination of the fact that this vehicle hadn't been driven much at all towards the end of its life in Japan before it started its new life in the UK. If you haven't taken these off before, if you don't know they're loose, then it's a good idea to take the fill plug off before you take the drain plug off, so you know you have a means of putting fresh oil in before you take the old oil out. So 19mm for the drain, and the fill is a 3/8. So as we start to let some air in, we find that flows a bit more freely. Indeed it does. I think it's about 1 litre of oil in here. And those flange bolts are 12. My neighbours are doing some drilling at the moment, which is great, always good for a video, so that'll give me some editing challenges with the sound, but never mind, hopefully it'll be okay. Right, as I said, I don't think this really needs draining completely dry. I think that will probably be sufficient, so I'm going to put these plugs back in now. Just to reduce the amount of oil that we get everywhere. Give that a more thorough clean up when we're done. So I've marked the flange to the prop shaft already. And we need a long socket for those because that's fouling. I've got a chassis cross member just up there, so I'm going to strap the prop shaft to that so that I don't have to take it out. This will just take the weight of it. Have I said these are 12s already? If I haven't, I'll tell you again now. There you go, these are 12s. What we should probably have, rather than pissing about with a spanner, is a ratchet and a long extension. There we go. Before I go any further, I've checked that there's no play in the bearing, because if the flange is leaking because there's play in the bearing and it's allowing this to wobble about as it's spinning, then there's absolutely no point in just putting a new oil seal on without the bearing. So what I think I'm going to do now is extend my paint mark So there we go, I'll let that dry. That means that when we put it back on, the flange, the nut and the shaft are all lined up. The other thing I'm going to do is measure, because the shaft isn't quite flush, so I'm just going to measure how much it is protruding by. Yeah, 0.8 of a millimetre. So that means that when we put it back on, we can get the preload as close to the same as it is now as possible. So I'm now going to try very carefully to, not with that I'm not, to unstake that nut. Alright, I've unstaked that as best I can. In the end I had to use a screwdriver. So unfortunately the only thing that I could get in to unstake it. I've unstaked it as best I can. Now hopefully I'm going to remove it. That socket isn't fitting quite as well as I'd like. This is a 22mm, so I'm going to have to use my super long one. And now we apply the puller. Which you'll probably be able to tell has had a little bit of a hard life, but hopefully is going to be up to the job. However, just in case it's not up to the job, I have chosen to put some face protection on. Yeah, it's going. What I'm doing there is just feeling the flange, just to check that the flange isn't damaged. There's a line where the seal's been running, but it doesn't feel like there's a groove, to be honest, so I think that'll be fine. So now just using a clean screwdriver, there we go, that's got it, to take the oil seal out. Alright, a quick story time about parts supply. So you'll notice I've got 3 oil seals on the bench here, and that's because different parts catalogues showed different part numbers for this oil seal, and I decided to take a punt and buy both, and I'm glad I did. because that's the first one I was going to order, or I ordered, and on most parts catalogues that was the correct one. You see it's got that extra flange on it, and also are we focusing? If I can hold them properly we would be. There we go, also it's thicker. So the second one I ordered turned out to be the correct one, which is the same size and the same thickness. We can also check it fits nicely on our flange, which it does. Okay, let's install our new seal. So we've cleaned, oh, I'll just see a bit of muck there, that, having said we've cleaned. There we go. Put a little bit of gear oil around the edge of this seal. Start it off square like that. Clean the hands. Right, what I've got here, can you see that? Yes, you can see that is one of the many mandrels from my bush installation removal kit. Could use a socket as well. And this just fits nicely on the metal part of the seal. And we can very gently just tap it into place until it's flush. With the housing. I might do the last bit just by tapping gently around the edge. So we don't go too far. Let's start putting things back together. I've given that a really good clean. Put some fresh gear oil just on the face of it, although where are my words going? The oil seal is actually pre-greased as supplied, if you like. Just making sure we're on the right one there. Okay, so I didn't have my camera on for a bit of that. Basically tapped it on enough so that the nut can get a couple of threads on, and then we're doing it by hand. The tapping has allowed the bearing to come backwards a little bit, which has meant that this is all flopping about everywhere. So I'm holding it like this and I'm twisting it as well to minimise the chance of damaging the oil seal as we tighten this down. Every so often I'm just stopping and checking that we're shaping up all right, and indeed we are. Okay, we can't see the oil seal anymore. So that's felt that start to get tighter just there. You can see we've probably got another, it's less than a quarter of a turn to go. So you can see what I'm doing here. I do have a really nice flange holder, which I've used for things like camshaft pulleys and scooter clutches. Unfortunately, I can't find it. So this is entirely the wrong tool for the job, but it's doing the job. So maybe it's not entirely the wrong tool for the job. This is an angle grinder tool to help hold the shaft while you change the bolts, the discs. And we're nearly there. Just going to see if I've got a slightly deeper socket. I do have a slightly deeper socket, which fits much better, but it's only on a 3/8, so let's see. I hope you can still see. Need to get myself into a good position here. Just a fraction more is needed. Okay. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 marks all in line. Let's just knock the collar back down to stake it again. Okay, can't swing my hammer there. So because I've not got it on axle stands, which has made the access easier for me, but not for hammering that. So I'm just going to jack it up, spin the wheels round, and hopefully we'll have a better crack at it. Okay, that's better. Can get a proper go at it now. And there we go, that's our staking reinstated. Just lower the prop shaft back into position. Line it up as before. Now these bolts, excuse me, just have a spring washer on them. I'm tempted to put a little bit of thread lock on there as well. So I'm going to lower it down a bit so it's level, and then we can fill up. Okay, let's put some oil back. I'll just let that drip for a bit. Okay, looks like we're about there. Stop dripping now. Okay, so I'm back from the test drive with good news. I got it nice and warm. For me, that means driving for a good period of time at about 50 miles an hour, which is the kind of happy cruising speed of one of these K trucks, in case you're not familiar. So got it nice and warm, came back, parked it up, and I've had a good look underneath, no drips at all. So our dribbling differential is fixed. And that brings this video just about to a close. I'll put the part number of the oil seal in the description of this video in case you too are afflicted with a dribbling differential. Let's leave it there then. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you again for the next one. Bye for now.